Well, there's a new version of the Tanzu Application Service coming out, version 4.0. And as always, when there's something Tanzu Application Service to talk about, we have none other than Nick Taz to come tell us what's going on there. Tell us the interesting new features, what's been happening since last time, the hopes and dreams of the Tanzu Application Service community. So welcome back, Nick.
Well, thank you, and thanks for having me back. And I apparently need to change my name or get a new license plate or something along those lines for Nick Taz.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the 4.0 release should be coming out here later this month, and there's a lot of things to cover. And it just to kind of give everyone a recap, it's going to be kind of the first iteration or new version of our long-term support track program. So a lot of our customers stay on the long-term support release cycle, and a lot of them will be jump upgrading, so we say, to 4.0. So I think a lot of folks will be very excited about this release and all the features really to kind of unpack here.
Yeah, I was just right before this. I was recording another interview with Carrie Schaefer from One Magnify. They're big. They're a big Taz user, or Tanzu Application Service user, and yeah, it was. I was just hearing how as she was saying, the opinionated platform of Taz, the developers love it. It works out well for them, and we spent a long time also talking about how developer happiness is part of your business case, which I didn't actually get down to asking her which Excel macro she uses for developer happiness, but being less snarky, it definitely was part of platform interest out there. So let's go through it. Like, what are like, let's say like the top three, and maybe we'll go to more, but like, what are the top three awesomeness features? You could even say Nicktastic features that we have there.
Man, I gotta get some stickers now or something. But yeah, probably to go along the lines of developer happiness and kind of the developer experience. Kind of the biggest new feature that we're looking at here is the introduction of Backstage into Taz. And it's going to be, I think, branded the Tanzu Application Service Portal, or Taz Portal for short. But essentially, we're bringing some of the goodness that we saw and see with Tanzu Application Platform into Taz. So if you're not familiar with Backstage, it's kind of like this open source framework, or like kind of big open source project that has many features in it. But one of the biggest features is kind of like this, I guess you call it like a software catalog or organizational catalog to help organizations kind of keep track of all the different like services within an organization. So you can, deploy an application, register it within this catalog, and then your other development teams can say, hey, what's in the catalog? Oh, it's like, identity service XYZ. Oh, I need that. I can go inspect that identity service and, see the, API structure and maybe how I can integrate that into my application without, rewriting that. So it allows for essentially reuse of software components and services, and kind of helps better promote kind of cross-functional development within an organization. And some of these organizations that use our products are very big, so anything we can do to help kind of coalesce and help things ease development in any way, shape, or form is a really big win.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting, because I feel like Taz has had maybe like 30 to 40% of that, right? Like you have the catalog of tiles and services and stuff that you can use. But then the thing I'm always intrigued with the Backstage way of life, so to speak, is that each of the applications or services, each of the developer teams, hopefully there's a developer team if you have some software you depend on in your organization. But each of the developer teams also has their own, I don't even know the Backstage terminology, their own page that you can go to, right? And the whole maybe not the whole, but a lot of what Backstage is about is making sure all those different teams can easily find each other and start to work with each other and understand the projects that's there, which kind of to your point, I always imagine if you have an organization with like 25,000 developers, it's not like it's easy to find things.
Right.
Right. And so it's good to have that built into there.
Yeah, and Backstage put out a blog recently that had some metrics around what they saw when they started using Backstage on a more regular basis across their teams. I'll just read you some of the stats here that are picked out. 2.3x more active in GitHub. This is a developer, so more active in GitHub as a result of being able to understand the systems around them and the information being generated by the different development teams that are working around them. Create 2 times more code changes in 17% less cycle time. So enables them to speed up and get more code changes done as well. So there's tons and tons of really good stuff in Backstage. It sounds really exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing what it looks like in the Taz platform. Have you seen it, Nick?
Yeah, so I've seen a little bit of it so far, and hopefully later I'll be releasing maybe a demo video on it. But yeah, so I've seen it. It looks a lot like what we see in Tanzu Application Platform, but it's kind of been I guess molded per se to work within Tanzu Application Service. And there's also some integrations too to kind of like if you're using the Backstage componentry and you want to go like into Apps Manager, which is the traditional portal for Taz, you can kind of go in between as well. So yeah, it looks a lot and feels a lot like the tap Backstage experience. And we also the applications accelerators have been loaded as well within that, so you can start to get some of that kind of golden templated or best practice templates for your organization in there as well, to really kind of streamline and maybe even we see that I caught on to like 2x improvement, so maybe who knows what the if we get studies about what the application accelerators do for bootstrapping new development or onboarding new developers within an organization, maybe in a year or two we'll have some kind of data around that. But yeah, I think it's going to speak a lot to really just helping people on board and kind of making the I guess the best path the least path of resistance within an organization, and people will just naturally do that. If it's if it's the easiest way to do it and it's also the right way, you'll probably have a lot of adoption. And I think that's a really key component to kind of key up on as well.
Yeah, because the term golden path comes up a lot, doesn't it, when you're talking about Backstage? But it also always came up a lot when you're talking about Taz. Taz has always had an opinion about the golden path to get to production. Right. So this seems like an extension of that, extending it beyond the boundaries of Taz. Has it still got that openness where you can include applications from anywhere in your portfolio? It doesn't have to be something that's on Taz?
I believe you could still register a services. I haven't thought about this
catalog.
Yet. Yeah, in the catalog from pretty much I guess anywhere, right? Whatever that has the there's like a YAML format, right, to register.
That's right.
Yeah. So assuming you have that in your repo, I assume it should register just like any other
data
service.
In.
Yeah.
Cool.
Exactly.
I'm looking forward to seeing that. I can't wait to see your video.
Yeah, well, me too. I have to make it first too. But
it'll be thrilling.
So you get the jazz hands on.
Yeah. Very, very excited about that.
Well, so what's number 2 on your list there? Like what?
Number 2. Let's see. So I guess we'll kind of go into. I can talk about a couple other features as an additional developer productivity awesomeness within Taz. So the next kind of feature, this is a feature that's very specific and kind of really makes Taz shine within the even in the current 2023 eco landscape, as we will. But the integrated Windows authentication support for .NET Framework applications is now live within Taz 4.0. So if you're not familiar with what that means, that's essentially, kind of these, like I guess we call them now legacy .NET Framework applications that are still probably running on Windows servers, but they make use of the integrated Windows authentication for authentication to the app. Those can actually now migrate into TAS and not be blocked, because the some of the build pack processes and things before actually didn't support that IWA protocol, but now that's been changed that we can allow that. So kind of that last bastion of kind of .NET framework apps that were kind of stuck on potentially legacy application servers that still needed patched and rebooted every month, and not a lot of automation around that process. Any of those apps can move into the platform now. And if you're a .NET shop or .NET framework shop, there's a lot of value in migrating, and you could potentially see a lot of time savings just from the developer and kind of platform engineering perspective of migrating this to a modern platform and kind of getting your journey, getting out of the days of kind of the legacy app server situation. And there's not a lot of things, in the market that can run .NET framework applications in any kind of cloud native way. So that's something very unique to TAS. So that's something to keep an eye on. Not everybody has .NET framework applications, but if you do, I would definitely check this out and see maybe where it can help potentially improve some of your processes.
Yeah, and this is because it's got actual Windows OS containers in there, hasn't it? Right.
Yeah.
So you're not building off a Linux base; you're building off a Windows base. And it sounds like the last part of that was the identity management piece, and that's now you can now integrate that well into those containers. So that sounds fantastic, especially like you said, if you're a .NET shop, or you're a Microsoft, a lot of folks that we talk to using Microsoft all the time are very interested in framework support, full framework support. So that sounds really cool.
Yeah. So yeah, and then just to kind of add on to that, if you're not familiar with it, TAS has a container scheduler called Diego, and it can run a full Linux Diego stack and a full Windows Server stack as well. Right. So it does, yeah. Right. So it's in parallel can support both Linux and traditional Windows Server workloads as well.
Yeah, and it can send apps in the correct direction, can't it? It can, it knows that the Windows apps are going over to this particular cell. The Linux apps going in a different direction. Exactly. So it's a good. It's good for tying everything together, isn't it? You don't have to feel excluded because of your Windows investments. You can keep making those Windows investments and still have them relevant in a cloud native environment, which is good.
Exactly. Let's see. One more. I'll pick a couple more little small features, not necessarily small features, but features within the continued developer productivity front. So we're starting to see introduction of cloud native build packs. So kind of like the next generation of build packs. So history lesson, the TAS build packs are known really kind of as the Cloud Foundry or V2 versions of build packs. And then cloud native build packs came along, which is kind of like the V3 variant. So now we're actually adding cloud native build packs into TAS as well, in addition to the already existing build packs. So there's been a lot of work being done to kind of adopt the cloud native build packs and kind of introduce them into TAS. So this is, the kind of goal of this is to continue to, add additional support for different, languages or configurations, and, to kind of stay up to the speed with all the different build pack technology. And I think the first build pack we'll see in 4.0, or the cloud native build pack we'll see, is the web servers type build pack. But as things progress, kind of the framework's been built to add, hopefully quickly add more different cloud native build packs as well in subsequent releases. So just kind of stay tuned there. And in addition to that, the CF Linux FS4 stacks are ready now as well. So another kind of big variant there is what base OS the platform uses for the container operating system, and we're just revving that to the next, essentially the next version of Linux OS, which I believe that is, I think that's still based on Ubuntu Jammy as well, and Linux FS4. So
Jammy for the win.
Yeah. So just again seeing that developers not having to worry about building container images, and it's just you kind of push your code up to the platform and everything's happy there.
Now maybe what's the difference? We had the two type of build packs. What's the difference between those two?
So, so the V2 or the Cloud Foundry build packs are kind of, let's just say the default build packs have shipped with Taz for quite some time. And the cloud native build packs were kind of introduced, and you've seen, so cloud native build packs, and Ben, correct me if I'm wrong here, because I think you probably know some about this too, but are really kind of like a new spec for build packs, and like an implementation of cloud native build packs are known as Paketo build packs, which is another kind of open source project that VMware sponsors. And I believe the Paketo build packs are actually associated with the Cloud Foundry Foundation too. But that's just a new kind of take, a new iteration of these build packs. So we kind of see this V2 and V3 variant. And I believe if we look at Tanzu Application Platform, a lot of the build packs based in TAP are off cloud native build packs as well. So
right.
Yeah, that's right. So as a developer, you probably won't notice any difference. You'll still do your CF push in the same way you always did. You'll still get a build pack selected based on the source code that you've asked it to build. So it still has a detect feature, and it's still going to detect your source code and then pick the appropriate stack to build underneath that source code into a container that's a hardened container based on Jammy, as Nick was saying. But I think the difference in terms of, if you watch the log, if you watch the log of these two things, I think probably the thing that you'll notice that feels slightly different is just the amount of granularity that's available in the version 3 is, I think it's higher. It feels higher when you look at the logs. It's selecting more details. It's detecting more details about what's actually in the source code, and then building layers based on those details. That's how it feels to me. But in terms of the end product is perfectly compliant container, runs first time, runs your app. You don't have to worry about build packs. You don't have to worry about Docker files at all. So you don't have to sort of go into the details of how it's constructed. You just say, here's my source code, build it into a container. The build pack will get on with that, whether it's a cloud native build pack version 3 or a version 2. It still works in the same way. It's just, like I said, there's just a few differences in the specification and the way that it's actually built out, that you might notice a difference if you're going through the logs. But if you don't want to know, you probably don't need to know.
Yeah, and it's, with this release, it sounds like you'll be assured there's jam in it. So it'll be good.
Plenty of jam. All good servers run jam. My server at home's running jam. So yeah, it's all good.
Another great sticker idea here.
That reminds me of the phenomena where in the 80s, kids would put like oatmeal and jam in VCRs, like it's loaded up with jam. You remember that?
I remember Spaceballs, where there was some jamming that went on.
We've been jammed. Yes. Yeah, they like lick it off the satellite and like it's raspberry, right, or something. I don't know, but yeah. Oh, that's a good movie. We've gone plaid.
I think that possibly dates me. I heard about it once. Maybe that's what I should say. I heard this movie once. That had this in.
Well, what else do we have going on in 4.0?
Right. Yeah, how do we transition out of the jam here? Okay.
Get out of jam.
Yeah, exactly. So, from I guess
on form, my friend.
Take off my developer hat, put on my platform engineer hat. Let's see here. So there's a lot of features around.
Does that look like a yellow hard hat? That one is that like that's probably how it is, isn't it?
I don't. Has the community coalesced on the hat?
Under construction. I think it's a construction hat. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah,
so, yeah, putting your construction hat on. What do you see?
Yeah. Exactly. So let's see. So there's some features around let's say custom app metric rate limiting. So so developers can make custom metrics that emit out of their applications, and some of those could be quite noisy. So now there are abilities to set kind of global limits and kind of regulate those metrics, so that we don't potentially get an overflow situation. So that's going to be pretty useful for the platform engineers of the house to any kind of tool or thing that can gauge that they can do to either kind of control the flow or prevent an overflow, especially anything around logging or metrics. they'll know that it's pretty well appreciated to help kind of prevent any kind of overflow within that system. So that's one.
Why don't children come with this feature? That's what I'm
Well,
you could just turn them down a little bit, like just I want to control the flow just a little bit.
Is that like a questions per minute type thing?
Yeah,
only one?
Why?
Or I don't.
Why?
Yeah, exactly. If we invented that, I think we'd be in a whole different business, Ben. But
I think you're right.
Yeah. So moving on. The platform now supports open IDC provider support. So in addition to like SAML and LDAP, you can use OIDC to provide authentication into the system. So I mean, that's just another authentication provider that a lot of folks are moving to. So that's just helping platform engineers, kind of keep their authentication into the latest format, and that's typically tied into like a SSO or enterprise SSO type thing. So making it easier for people to, authenticate into the system, and, less iterations going through password, username, password type thing.
I think every time we catch up on the latest TAS stuff with you, there's like new authentication integrations. I mean, of course, right? Because that's you need that. Like and as it gets used more and more, you encounter the more thrilling and even exotic authentication systems that you wouldn't think to integrate with initially.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we'll come up with something next for sure. But let's see. There's been a playbook has been built to help with the CF Linux FS3 and FS4 migration, as we kind of talked about before in the additional stacks offered within the platform. So helping platform engineers kind of to get to that experience, and some tooling built around that to help as well. There was a migration going from 2 to 3 kind of a few years back, and we've tried to introduce more tooling and more help for this upcoming migration.
Is that because of stuff like, I don't know, container D changes, or is it that sort of stuff you mean? There's things that are in the base image that perhaps are changing.
Well, it's just base image changing. There's potential things about like you essentially have to restage the application to go to the new stack, and sometimes it's just weird. Your base OS is updating, so there might be a weird compiler thing, or like a slight difference on how, like, I don't know, like Python works or PHP works. So just 99% of the time everything will be fine, but there's like these weird offlier cases that people need to just be aware of, and make sure you're kind of paying attention to these type of things.
It's good. It's always good to know that there's a chance, but it's also good to know that it's a small chance. In a small number of cases you might need something like this guide, but in the majority of cases you don't.
Well, I think too, and it may seem like, for folks not familiar with the product, that like, why are we talking about this? But I mean, the platform's been around for over a decade now. So like, we've had to deal with like operating systems going out end of life and like going to the next version. Unlike, like it's been around, it's very mature. So there's definitely operational procedures about, hey, we have to go to this next version because what we started on is now, is end of support. So we got to go to the next version versus, some of these newer things haven't been around long enough to deal with that yet. So I guess it is what it is, right?
Yeah, and that's it. Like if you're running a Linux desktop like I am, then with Ubuntu every 2 years you got to expect an upgrade cycle. There's sometimes something in that upgrade cycle that you have to contend with. You have to think about and maybe change the way that you do a few things, but it's part and parcel of the continuing innovation that's going on in that space. Really, you just have to go along with the ride, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So some more iterations here. We're going to kind of go down into the Tanzu Operations Manager space, but that's kind of one of the key mechanisms for managing and deploying Tanzu Application Service. It's kind of our appliance packaged version of Bosch and all of those things. But the Tanzu Operations Manager is declaring long-term support in kind of tandem with Taz. So Operations Manager 3.0.5 is going to be kind of paired with this 4.0 release. So these kind of variants will stay in the long-term support track as needed, and you don't really get Taz without Ops Manager, so having them kind of be more lockstep makes sense from a release cycle. And another really kind of big note we're talking about here with platform engineers is certificates. And we've done a lot of work in the past releases to help make certificates easier with the platform. The platform has a lot of kind of bundled managed certificates because we're doing a lot of different things with VMs, with containers, load balancing, all these different things all require certificates. But we're trying to make this process less painful throughout every release. And with this kind of new release here, we're seeing the ability to automatically rotate the non-configurable lease certificate, or that's really kind of like the bottom tiered certificates that are like the most need to be rotated the most often, right? Because I don't think I've never heard anyone in the IT industry really talk fondly about certificates, but it's just something we have to deal with certificates in order to really kind of operate. So these certificates now, when an operator goes to hit apply changes or really kind of push a change to the platform, you can check to say, hey, automatically go and rotate these non-configurable lease certificates as well. So that's going to just help people to like, all right, I'm already pushing a change, I'm going to do that too, just to make sure these certificates have been rotated to save a whole lot of time. Because beforehand they'd have to do some kind of like out of band process to get these certificates rotated, and now just having that appear within the kind of the portal and say checkbox rotate certs should hopefully save a lot of time and pain, because these are the certificates that are rotated the most often. So
I think that's the thing with reliability, isn't it? It's so reliable, you can leave it for a long time. And if you do that, there's more of a chance that you'll hit one of the certificate issues, because time will catch up with you from the certificate's point of view, even though the app is perfectly fine.
Right, yeah.
So it's having that ability to sort of do it as part of other maintenance tasks that kind of staves off that date from ever coming to so close that it becomes a problem for you, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So like, as time goes on, like, you think that 4-year life cycle of that, certificate authority is going to be fine. But then when you're, close to 4 years, like, well, I need to rotate that. It's been, 4 years. So things like that, we've had to deal with. And then it seems like the security trend is to make the acceptable lease duration of certificates shorter and shorter and shorter. Yeah. And I think I even saw something on Twitter the other day that was like, we're going to make them like a month or something, or like 3 months. Like server certificates are going to go down from 1 year to 3 months. I was like, well, this person's clearly never worked in enterprise IT, because having to everything rotate as, at minimum or at maximum a 3-month life cycle that'd be a lot. But
with 10,000 apps or whatever, you're going to be rotating several hundred times a day, aren't you? So
yeah.
It's going to be you're going to hack yourself.
Yeah,
that's what's going to happen.
Well,
denial of service on yourself by having too many rotations.
So the certificates rotate every minute or something. I don't know, but yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's just rotating your certificates, kind of like taking out the trash. Nobody really wants to do it, and you're not going to get a big promotion or anything. But if you don't take out the trash, there will eventually be consequences, right? So you just got to do
a big demotion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I think you raise a good point that would be a good award, like a little acrylic trash bag.
Yeah,
and it's the award you give someone for just like doing their job well, that no one notices, and because otherwise you would have too many trash bags. Just this month you get the Taking Out the Trash award.
Yeah,
we appreciate it.
Thank you for not letting our certs expire. Yeah, exactly.
That's right. Well, so I think that's as with every Taz version, there's a whole bunch of features and smaller things as well. Are there any like let's pick out Are there any fascinating or like very small but interesting developer features that have come out? Like what's a feature that like seems kind of small, but there's a developer and operations person out there who's like, oh, this is going to save me 3 keys that I have to push.
Yeah. So
every 2 hours.
So I got a couple that come to mind. One of them is so when we talk about like blue-green deployments, right? And that's a typical like pattern used within Taz and other, you know, kind of cloud native type situations, right? But essentially you have 2 copies of the app, and then you do like the kind of routing flip over when you think that the new version is okay, and you know you go from green to blue or vice versa, and you know, if there's an issue with a new version of the application, you can roll back to the other one, and you know, it's essentially to help roll out new changes of your application, minimizing downtime and minimizing impact potential. Like, oops, we roll it out a new version, and whoopsie, we broke something. Maybe something that you know the folks at Twitter can start applying. But the folks, sorry, I try to pull that off without laughing, but it apparently didn't work out. That functionality within Taz has worked, but there's an issue with some of the metadata. And when you did that blue green, which would instantiate a CF rename, that name, the name wouldn't quite change, and that people would lose apps, logs, and metrics within that blue green flow. And that was actually kind of preventing some folks from doing that because they didn't want to lose logging or metrics when that change hit. So now we've updated and fixed that so that when you do a CF rename in part of that blue green kind of flow, the metadata and logs are all, they rename as well. So if you're doing like a log stream or looking at logs through like, you know, log aggregation system, when you're doing this process, that full name will flow properly, and we won't lose logs when we do that rename process. So it seems a bit kind of obscure to, you know, if you're not really kind of deep in the weeds on this, but for developers, it's in engineering, it's a big win, because then if they want to continue down this path of, you know, using blue green, they don't have to worry about potentially losing logs and metrics when this change happens. And especially when you're testing new functionality, losing some logs potentially could be not a good thing. So this is definitely something that I think a lot of folks will be excited about, that, you know, actually have been using it and you know, continue to make improvements in that developer workflow there.
Well, yeah. I always like log files. You know, you don't want to lose anything, especially like you were saying that, you know, around something like releasing, putting a new release out, you want to collect as much about it as possible in case you have to fix it, if not even just right away, but in the future. Well, so, you know, how do people get a hold of this? Remind them of the process for getting an upgrade in place. How does that all work out?
An upgrade to Tanzu Application Service?
That's right.
Yeah. So, you know, they can, well, a lot of our, you know, tried and true platform engineers will be making use of platform automation via Concourse, and they'll elect to pull this release from our beloved TanzuNet and kind of start propagating that through their systems kind of automagically. But you can go and manually download that as well at TanzuNet when it becomes available, and, you know, upload it to your ops manager and click apply changes pretty easily, you know, pretty easily without a whole lot of hoops to go through.
Is that where the docs will be as well, Nick, at network.tanzu.com? Is that right?
Oh yeah, so they'll be with the actual release. There'll be release notes bundled when you go to download it, and you can go to, you know, within there's off to the right hand side, you can go like read the release notes, and then you'll get all this, you know, the actual release notes tied to the release. And if you want to, you know, obviously we have the Tanzu Tech Zone site too, which has a lot of focus for the Tanzu Application Service too. So we can keep an eye out for you know, when it becomes GA, I'll be talking about it on my social media platforms, and I believe we will kind of rebroadcast this to the world when the GA date launches as well, just to make sure people can go and get it when it's fresh off the presses, so to speak, as well.
Well, we better get your Twitter handle then, Nick. Do you want to call it out for our listeners?
Yeah, it's at Kuhnz, or THKUHNZ. So I'm pretty active on Twitter. I do a little Mastodon and LinkedIn as well. So you can follow me there.
And you're building a heck of a server on Twitter. I noticed there's a few pictures now and again.
Yeah, so I have a kind of side home lab project I've been working on, and I try to post daily of part of the 100 Days of Home Lab kind of hashtag there. Soon, hopefully, I'll be running a Cloud Foundry in my basement, or Tanzu Application Service in my basement. But maybe I'll make a video about that too. But yeah, I've bought a lot of gear, and I've gone over time and over budget, but it's been fun.
I think it sounds like the most expensive home automation I've ever heard of.
Yeah.
You're gonna run Taz for 5 of you, is it, in the house?
Yeah, it's gonna be a great developer experience, let me tell you.
Yeah, well, it's fun to have your own cloud in your basement. You could call it the Nicktastic cloud.
Yeah. Now I need to go register that domain, right?
.io.
Yeah.
Or you could use .plumbing, .limo.
I didn't even know .plumbing was a thing. But yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like, you can have anything now. Yeah.
Just set yourself aside like 45 minutes and go look at all the top level domains. It'll be very entertaining.
Oh boy.
It's the most important thing you'll shop for. Forget about all those switches and servers. It'll be the most important thing you shop for.
I'll end the day with 100 new domain names registered to me for no apparent reason.
Yeah, the domain registrar I use, it has this it has an option where you can search everything, and there's so many of them that like it takes several minutes for it just to like go out
populate
and put all of the possible names in there. It's ridiculous. But
oh boy.
Yeah. All right. Well, as always, it's great to have you on for an update, and just to remind people, there's a regular cadence of releases. So around when do you think the next version? When is it targeted for on the cadence?
So from the cadence for Taz, we aimed to release twice a year. So the first kind of release is going to be the long-term support track, and then we'll have a release later in the year, which is that fast track for folks who want to just consume every release every 6 months approximately.
I think we should call that the fun track.
The fun track, yeah.
Wow, Ben and I are. This is the they call it the golden hour when the sun sets and your photos look good, but this is like the golden hour for marketing. I think is what's going on over here.
Well, the sun is setting here, but I can't claim to look good.
And talking about releases too, there are a few other kind of ecosystem releases that are happening too. So just keep your eyes peeled for that. But one more thing to highlight is that the MySQL, VMware SQL for MySQL, called Tile. I may have butchered the actual official product name there, but the MySQL Tile is revving to support MySQL 8.0 as well. So
all right.
It's going to be a big for folks using that Tile, and the Cloud Service Broker tiles for folks who want to use Taz and use cloud native services with the big 3 hyperscalers. Those are revving as well, kind of out of band of the big Taz releases. But we do have a lot of work in that ecosystem, in the Taz overall ecosystem, with the tiles, the partner tiles, all kind of revving kind of as fast as they can get releases out too. So, we have 2 major releases per year, but then, there's a lot of other ecosystem tiles kind of happening in between, and, different things happening there. So everyone just keep your eye out there, and I'll try to do my best to help kind of highlight those as well too, to make sure folks are knowing about those releases too as they come out.
Yeah, well, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Well, as we mentioned earlier, I think if you're interested, you will certainly be aware of the release sometime soon. And if you're listening to this and you'd like wanted to get pointers to things, if you go to tanzutalk.com, you can look up this episode, and we'll put some links in the show note to it. And maybe at some point in our regular recording schedule, Ben, when the Nicktastic cloud is fully installed, we can have a little after show special, and just we can do a little retrospective, see what we've learned.
Will there be drinks? I'll come if there are drinks.
Yes,
that's right.
We can ship you drinks. Yeah,
yeah.
We can all coalesce in Nick's green room.
Yeah.
I think what you got to target is putting it in a backpack. That's all. You always want to have a cloud in a backpack, or a platform in a backpack.
Like booze on a sort of a sucky straw thing. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, that's right. I think that belongs on a hat. But yes.
Oh, that's hardcore.
That's platform engineering hard hat to the next extreme, right?
Yes, indeed.
A hard hat with 2 beers on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks for being on, and thanks for listening. It was fun, and we'll see everyone next time. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you.